Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. Today I have a story for you all that's unlike any of the others I've ever written. The deep and complex themes of this one are really something I worked hard on conveying, and this story was so easy and fun to work on. While the paths of Clearsight and Darkstalker both end up being completely different by the end of their stories, in this what if, I'll be swapping their fates. Clearsight's obsession with her visions and mapping out the future leads to her downfall, though maybe not in a way you'd expect. I really can't wait to see your reaction to this one. And thank you so much to 𝙂𝙤𝙤𝙬𝙤 for making the video art here. It's absolutely stunning and gorgeous, and I couldn't be more in love with this. Please go check out her social medias down below. But before we begin, a huge shout out to my patrons. Darkstalker95, Slightest Wild, Thistle, Noobto, Pyronuke, Avril, Pancake, and Ascarada. Thank you all so much for supporting me. Links to their social medias are in the description down below. Anyways, without further ado, let's get into the video. The night of Clearsight's hatching was, in stark contrast to the rest of her life, unremarkable. Swiftwings watched the silver-tipped edges of her egg fall onto a grassy hill, and adoringly eyed the dragonet that peered from its top. However, unlike the other newborn Swiftwings had seen enter the world, her dragonet's face was laced with concern she should not have known yet. Dark scales creased, her tiny face contorted with confusion and ideas. It was as though so many thoughts were already running through her head. Is that even possible? Swiftwings thought with a pang of worry. How much are dragonets even aware of when they hatch? Is this supposed to happen, or am I merely blinded by a mother's natural concern? No, this dragonet is going to be okay. She was born beneath one of the moons. She's going to do great things for our tribe with this gift she has. I'm sure Star Chaser will be so excited to meet her. But every NightWing's path starts with a name. It's what defines us and shares our destiny with the world. My poor Moonbeam is having so many thoughts already. It's almost as though she's looking into a reality far from this one, like a seer. Clearsight. That's what I'll call her. She will clearly see our future and protect it. There's something special about my baby, I know it. Maybe her bright sight will save us all. Swiftwings glanced up at her daughter, whose eyes were finally wide. It seemed as though only now her mind had truly entered this world. Hello, Clearsight, her mother said softly. Large talons gently lifted the NightWing dragonet into comforting arms. It's so nice to meet you. I'm glad you're here with us now. The bundle of floppy wings only chirped with a yawn. Clearsight buried her head into Swiftwings' warm touch, curling up to wrap herself into a loving embrace. Before closing her eyes, Clearsight's gaze met the moon. A cloudy haze of night clouds began to slip over its glow, hiding the ball of light from view. The dragonet was left only to stare as the midnight grew dim. It was not until Swiftwings nudged her snuggling closer that she took her eyes and mind off the sky, though she never truly would. Clearsight? Swiftwings shouted, frantically knocking on her daughter's door. You're going to be late for your first day at the academy. After being met only with silence, she peered inside the young NightWing's room. Clearsight was seated at her desk, writing with her brow furrowed. Swiftwings only sighed, shaking her head. You know, if you stay in that spot on the floor of your room forever, you'll literally create a crater in the ground. Clearsight only frowned. I'm sorry, Mother. My visions have just been so much stronger lately. I have to sort through everything, otherwise it could all go wrong. Swiftwings moved to take a spot next to her daughter. She wrapped a big arm around Black Scales. Are you sure it's not you just being scared for your first day? She asked. Clearsight stayed quiet, eyeing the stone floor instead of her mother's eyes, as though it was the most interesting thing in the world. Honey, Swiftwing continued, it's okay to be nervous. You're allowed to be a normal dragon for once. I'm sure all your other classmates are just as anxious, even without being so stuck in their own minds. Clearsight let out a soft exhale, leaning into her mother's touch. "It can't be," she replied. "I've been given this gift. I have to use it. You told me other dragons aren't like me, and I guess I'll find that out myself today. But if they really aren't, I have to step up. Surely I was given this sight for something, right?" Swiftwings paused. "My beautiful daughter, if you spend so much time wrapped up in what can happen, you'll forget what should. We make our choices in the moment, and while foresight can be an incredibly useful gift, it can also destroy you if you let it take over everything. Go to school today. Forget all about these paths you're navigating, even if it's just for a few hours. Be a kid. You're only 3, and you have your whole rest of your life to map all these futures out. What's waiting for you now is a perfect first day, and the friends you could make. If a vision tells you who you'll meet, doesn't that change the value of letting things happen as they do? I know you can't exactly block out this power, but let it take a backseat. Just for today, if you can. Are you able to try for me?" Clearsight's purple eyes met a familiar brown. She hesitated for a long while before swallowing, letting her head fall into a nod. "I'll try." "Wonderful," Swiftwing said with a smile. "Do you want me to pack you something for lunch, or would you rather order at the cafeteria?" "Packing something would be nice," Clearsight said. "I'll need time to learn my way around." Swiftwings finally stood, beaming at her daughter with hope. "Well, finish grabbing your things and fly off to school then. I love you, my little moonbeam." "I love you too, Mom." Clearsight hugged her tighter than she ever had before, and Swiftwing smiled. "I would do anything in the world to make sure she has a perfect day today," Swiftwings thought. "I hope she doesn't lose herself to these visions. She deserves peace up there in her head. Maybe one day she'll have it. Maybe." Clearsight soared onto her school campus for the first time, watching as the sun grew higher in the sky. Dragonettes of all ages were already talking and laughing by the front pillars. Small groups of girls were seated by the hanging gardens, comparing how sparkly their school supplies were. Clearsight landed at the furthest entrance, which only had a few students around. Most of them were much larger than herself, and eased around the academy grounds with experience. For the first time, the young NightWing felt as though she knew less of what would come than anybody else. "No, don't tap into those futures. You promised Mother you'd take a break from mapping everything out and try to navigate the safe way. But what if something bad happens today? What if I mess up? How will I know what choices are the right ones to make if there's no way for me to see them so clearly? I need to know what every decision could bring. How inferior do other dragons live without this power? How do you make choices when you have no idea how you'll end up after them? I don't think I'll ever understand." Clearsight was hurled ungracefully from her dazed thoughts by dark scales crashing into her side. The scroll she had desperately been clutching tumbled to the ground, scattering everywhere. "Oh, 3 moons!" a voice said. The NightWing Dragonet looked up, realizing what, or rather, who, she had bumped into. A dragon blinked down at her, wearing a nervous yet charming face. Twisted horns lay at the top of his head, and a thin line of white scales ran down his chest. "Wait, are you?" "Darkstalker, the one and only," the Dragonet replied cheerfully. "Yeah, I don't think there's a dragon walking around school that hasn't heard about me. It's kind of hard to exist when everyone knows you're a mysterious hybrid with big powers. But I haven't ever seen you around before, or at least not by the palace. What's your name?" How in the moons is he just unloading everything on me so easily like that? Clearsight thought with a confused twitch. What if I was an enemy dragon? I mean, without foresight, how could he see what I'll do, what my intentions are? How does he know talking to me is the right choice? How do I know talking to him is the right choice? And why am I opening my snout to speak right now? "I'm Clearsight," the Dragonet said quickly. I'm from the villages by the hills. Maybe that's why you haven't seen me before. Darkstalker stared at her curiously before letting out a genuine smile. I love your name! And, for the record, I'm a seer too. Clearsight's heart froze in her chest. How did he? I'm a mind reader as well, he added. Though I'm not sure my foresight is nearly as strong as yours based on all the thoughts about futures you're having right now. You know what? I should stop prying. Yeah, that sounds like a good idea. Sorry. Darkstalker anxiously fidgeted with the bracelet he was wearing, his tail whacking the tall grass behind him, as though his words were the lawn's fault. Clearsight let out a laugh, losing some of the tension in her muscles. I guess I don't need visions to know he means me no harm. You're okay, Darkstalker, she said genuinely. It's nice to meet you. Right back at you, he replied. So, is this your first year at the academy? Clearsight nodded. It's mine too, although I've already been placed in the 4-year-old classes, Darkstalker said. The principal told me the queen will be able to use my powers for something special. Isn't that crazy? I mean, I could be practically second in command someday. Yeah, that's a lot, Clearsight said. Would you be alright with the pressure, though? I feel like every day I'm already having to sort through enough. I couldn't imagine the queen giving me more futures to look at. Darkstalker only shrugged. I'm not sure. I guess I'd just find out in the moment, or maybe live a bit longer to see if that's the right path for me. I don't really use my visions the way you do then, I guess. Clearsight furrowed her brow. Am I using my foresight the wrong way? No, these powers are great. Mother even told me so. If other dragons won't take up the responsibility to use them to map out the world, well, I will. Although I don't think Darkstalker needs that stress. He seems happy. I only met him a few moments ago, and somehow I'm getting through a conversation without trying to see all the ways it could end. This feels weird. I don't know if I like it, but I think I like him. Is that enough to change how this goes? Suddenly, a resounding bell chimed throughout the campus. Darkstalker's head shot up as he scrambled to put Clearsight's scrolls back in her talons. Oh no, we're almost late for administrative meetings! Our what? The NightWing Dragonette asked. Every new student will miss the first period to talk with a teacher. They'll see if there are any schedule changes that need to be made, or if you should move up or down a class, depending on how you feel right now. Didn't they assign you somebody? Almost as though on cue, gray claws began to descend down the school steps. A large NightWing with old, withered scales approached the pair. 2 silver teardrop scales painted the sides of her face. Ah, there you are, a teacher said. My name is Truthfinder. I was meant to discuss your schedule with you earlier, Clearsight. Would you be alright heading to my office? The young dragonette nodded after staring in surprise. I should have used my visions to make you remember about this, Clearsight thought. I was supposed to meet with her already before school. If I had gone through every way this conversation would have ended hours ago, I would have been on time for it, and... Clearsight? Miss? Truthfinder turned her head to the side, squinting as though if she stared long enough, all of the NightWing's ever thoughts could be available to her. Clearsight immediately shook her head. Sorry, I'll go with you right away. Darkstalker waved as Clearsight turned to walk to the office tower with Truthfinder. His body was light, and he appeared excited for the day. How can someone with powers like mine be so comfortable in a world such as this, where everything always changes? Where there is a future you can perfectly navigate to if you work hard enough to make it happen, through planning destiny. Maybe the school will help me work on those thoughts. Or it could send me down a path worse than just being trapped in my own head. I'll use my foresight right now to see if that can happen. After all, I'm just walking to an office. I can retreat into visions now while I have the chance. I should. I have to. I need to know how this day and the ones soon to follow will go. How could anybody be okay not knowing? And how is Darkstalker so happy? Truthfinder motioned for Clearsight to take a seat in front of her desk. For once, the NightWing Dragonette finally ignored her impulse to dive into futures, due to the promise she had made that morning. But upon facing a dragon in a conversation that could either prove to be a disaster or the best thing in the world, she nearly bit her tongue with the regret that she now had. "Well, I spoke with Swiftwings and Starchaser about ideas on where to place you here," Truthfinder said at last. "And after looking at your records, you are quite a remarkable student. Your gift appears to be different than most. I spoke to the principal, and she wondered if you'd be alright joining classes with dragons a little older than you. We believe it may help with this talent of yours to be around other seer Dagonets with more experience." Clearsight hesitated. "But Mother said none of their foresight is like mine," she thought. "Would they really be able to help? And isn't Darkstalker in some of those classes? Will being around him and all of this distract me from what I'm supposed to do? I thought I was close to working on putting together the future before today. I know I promised I wouldn't use my foresight, but I have to. This is a big decision, and one I can't make without being certain it's the right one. I've seen how much the small things, like saying yes or no here, can alter the path that must be. I'm sorry, Mother. I'm going to dive into the web of realities again. I'll make it quick, though. Maybe Truthfinder will just think I'm lost in thoughts rather than futures. Maybe. It's time to see what I should do. I have to make the right choice." Clearsight entered the hall, only to notice it being full of loud dragonets. They laughed and leaned on each other, telling stories of their mornings in summer. The Nightwing's mind felt hazy, forehead pulsing with the looming feeling of an oncoming headache. She had let herself fall into the endless spiral of futures. What always confused Clearsight, though, is how different this journey was each time. On some occasions, sorting through futures felt like ascending upon a spiral tower. Each world and result was a door she had to open with her very talents, and its ending or path was presented behind the wood. On other days, she was falling. Each spiderweb that slowed her descent sent her mind running across futures. She did not like those times. It felt almost as uncontrollable as a world without foresight. The thought made Clearsight grow stiff. Ultimately, the best choice, as she foresaw, was to choose the classes with Darkstalker. While the other route featured a friend named Listener, Clearsight realized just how much the Blood Moon Dragonet would distract her from the tasks at hand. Darkstalker's path lacked the strange feelings that arose when Clearsight looked into that alternate reality. Maybe there was a version of me that did go that way. I wonder what happened to her. With the right choice I made today through this mapping of futures, I can no longer see back. My foresight has never failed. This was the right thing to do. Was it? Doubt from a seer was an unfamiliar feeling, causing the Nightwing Dragonet to focus elsewhere. She also had seen that sitting with Darkstalker was a good idea. The two of them would have a happy future in nearly every reality she ventured through. Clearsight saw days of laughter and friendship ahead, as well as even the chance for more. Is that before or after I figure everything out? Clearsight thought. I hope by then I've already been successful in finding out the best future. After all, I can see how so many of these dragons really don't have a gift like mine. Mother, I'm sorry for using my powers today. I'll try to avoid it tomorrow, or just whenever I feel like I'm at a strong stopping point. When I've looked at enough of the different realities to know I'm currently in the best one, where things will go well for everybody. Then I'll take a break. But for now, I have a lot of work to do. Don't worry. I won't let you know your moonbeam is doing this. It'll be okay. All of it. Everything will work out if I can see the future. I can write this reality. I know I can. Right? Raindrops finally began to fall from the sky, landing lightly on the foliage. Though the droplets were small, Clearsight had foreseen that a great storm was to be arriving soon. It would have no effect on the school day, other than a few dragonets walking into class with damp scrolls. It was nice to know the day and its rainfall would bring no harm, knowing that the seer could see in her visions anyway. A few months into her first year at the academy, and everything felt easier for Clearsight, after she continued to use her powers to navigate life. She told Darkstalker of how close she was to reaching the point of realizing every whole future, though took notice of his discomfort. Darkstalker often asked her if it was worth the worry. Clearsight had defended herself by saying looking into the future took no toll, making the young hybrid left only to eye the lines of worry that were embedded into her face. In truth, Clearsight ignored the way her muscles were never loose. It was a small price to pay for certainty, she thought. It was better than having to deal with every day knowing none of what would occur, right? It had been so long since Clearsight had let the world decide her fate. If she could work it and bend it to the best future, then everyone would be okay. Maybe then Starchaser would return from work happy, or Darkstalker's parents would stop arguing. Maybe Swiftwings would finally be able to relax instead of worrying about her daughter's days at school. It could all be gone. All the anxiety, all the uncertainty she saw in the heads of dragons that did not know their path. I'm the only one who can do this, Clearsight remembered as she stared off into the dark morning sky. I'm the dragon that can look up there and find futures. I'll make Pyria better for us all. The sound of a creaking door startled the NightWing out of her thoughts. A familiar face peeked in. My visions didn't show me this, Clearsight thought uncomfortably. I didn't put away my scrolls. I thought you were heading to the town to buy food, Clearsight said slowly. Swiftwings merely shook her head with a sigh. The weather is worsening. It was hard enough to even take off in the first place, but after being in the sky for too long, I realized it was better if I waited until tomorrow. This wasn't supposed to happen, Clearsight thought at the start. The storm was going to have no real effect. Mother was going to be off in the market until I got home. I was going to wrap up all my scrolls so she wouldn't see. Please don't look at my desk. Please don't see. I've been doing the one thing you told me not to. I can't help it. I need this. Everyone does. Almost as though on cue, Swiftwings tracked her daughter's gaze. Her eyes eventually fell upon open scrolls, each containing lines and bubbles. She did not need to read the writing to understand. Clearsight, honey. Have you been looking into all these futures again? The Midnight Dragon remained silent. She quickly sorted through as many of them as she could, but it was like she was slipping on the wet rocks outside in the mountains. Realities came at her for a second, but were lost immediately as she fell. One thing was in common with all the endings she could see, though. Swiftwings would end the conversation furious. I can change that, Clearsight thought quickly. You're doing it again, honey. I can see it in your eyes when you're lost in those futures. I noticed it the moment you hatched. I've learned to recognize the signs. If I wasn't so busy with everything going on with your father, I would have noticed. Oh dear, I'm so sorry. Sorry for what? Clearsight said as her heart pounded. There's nothing wrong with me. Swiftwings frowned. My precious Moonbeam, I hate seeing you like this. See me like what? I'm better than I ever have been. I'm only helping us. Everyone. Swiftwings tried moving closer to her daughter, attempting to put a comforting arm on her, as she had always done. But Clearsight pulled away. Daughter, you can't just sort through every future. It is affecting you. I've seen how little sleep you get these days. I've noticed how quiet and withdrawn you've been, even around your friend Darkstalker. I just thought you'd obey. But I should never have assumed it'd be easy for you to stop being lost to these visions. I'm not lost in them, Clearsight said. New realities pelted her mind and filled her vision uncontrollably. I can control everything. It's just a lot right now. I'm losing control, she thought with a panic. I can't. I can fix this. I've been doing this my whole life, and that's the problem, Swiftwings interrupted. It's consuming everything for you. It's not! Clearsight shouted. Her mother froze, leaving the room silent, other than the rain that landed in fat droplets on Clearsight's window. I can stop when I want. I'm just trying to reach a point where that's the best choice. Why can't you see that? Swiftwings inhaled slowly. Clearsight, I need you to calm down. I am calm! You're the one who, in all these futures I'm seeing right now, is the angry one. Well, I can't imagine ever shouting at you, Swiftwings said quietly. However, it was as though her daughter did not hear a word of it at all. I'm going. I'm leaving to see the one person that will actually understand. Darkstalker is a seer too. He'll tell you I have control over this. Because I do. Clearsight, wait! The words fell upon deaf ears. The dark-scaled NightWing merely stormed past her mother before flying off the porch. The rain lashed harder than before, causing wind to slam the door shut before Swiftwings could exit. When she finally was able to push it open, her daughter was lost in the clouds. Oh my moons, Swiftwings thought. What has this foresight done to her? What happened to the dragonette who fell asleep in my arms on her hatching day, who used to watch the stars with me while filled with hope, not an obsession with control? Please, Darkstalker, bring her back to me. I don't know you well, but you're her only hope. What is happening with my visions? Clearsight darted across the drizzling sky, her scales wrapped in the darkness of the storm. Water from above rained down on her body, drenching every talon in thought. She soared toward the high town, anxious. They've never led me to a wrong choice. They've never failed me until now. Maybe I can fix things with Mother if I stop to go through every future where things end up happy between us. Then I'll know how to apologize to her. Thick droplets of tears began to roll down Clearsight's snout, staining her cheeks with sadness. I just hope Darkstalker understands. He always has these past few months. Even when I see a look of worry on his scales, I use my foresight to find out how I can make things right between us. I mean, isn't that what everybody should do? If I can convince Darkstalker it's the right way to use these powers, I won't be alone with this burden anymore. I just have to talk to him. But I wish my brain wasn't so scrambled that I could actually look into some of the outcomes of this conversation. I hate this storm. Tomorrow, things will be better. I just have to make it to his house first. Clearsight finally arrived after battling the raging kingdom winds. Darkstalker's house seemed empty, with no candles lining the windowsills. Come on, please be here, the NightWing thought wildly. You have to be. I saw it earlier before I took off. Are my visions wrong again? Clearsight knocked, anxiously putting an ear against the thick wooden door. After a few minutes, Darkstalker motioned for her to come inside. Clearsight sighed, her wings dripping with an endless ocean. The young hybrid looked at her with concern, immediately grabbing a cloth from the side of the couch. Clearsight? What are you doing here? The storm is awful. You shouldn't be out. If it was going to be too bad, Clearsight began, my visions would have warned me of it. I'll be okay. The seer suddenly flinched at Darkstalker's touch. He instinctively moved his talons away from his attempts at drawing her after. Don't worry about me, she blurted out. How I am doesn't matter right now. I just wanted to talk. Darkstalker frowned, but eventually nodded and made his way over to the couch. Okay, he said, shifting to sit on one of the cushions. I'm here for you. What's up? Clearsight sighed, wiping away the wetness from her lilac eyes. Darkstalker, you and I have the power to change the world. I know we're told to keep this kind of stuff at bay, and to suppress it if it's too much. But can it really ever be? I mean, you're the strongest Animus Dragon I've ever seen. And you have foresight and mind reading too. I'm the most powerful seer to 𝙈𝙊𝙍𝙁, and from the moment of my hatching, I felt different. When the midnight clouds shrouded themselves over the moon, it was like my destiny was sealed. I'm supposed to write the future. I just don't want to do it alone anymore. My mother doesn't understand. She thinks all this is hurting me, and it's not. But even if it was, would that be such a big price to pay? The happiness of the continent for the sake of one dragon? I feel like you're the only one who's ever wanted to listen to me about this, even if you've had a million unsaid words. But please, Darkstalker, tell me I'm doing the right thing here. Tell me I should keep mapping out the future until I find the right path for us. All of us. Darkstalker hesitated and avoided Clearsight's gaze at first. I don't really think I can tell you you'd be doing the right thing, he said at last. Clearsight furrowed her brow in confusion, so Darkstalker continued. If all you're doing is hurting yourself in the end, is it really going to save anybody? It won't be helping everybody if you're not yourself. If you're not still the dragon I've immediately loved since I first met. If you lose the dragon you are, it would be such a huge loss for Pyria that I don't think you could ever use your powers right. I know I should have talked to you more about this sooner, but it's not everybody being saved if you're hurting. You're part of the equation too, Clearsight. I think with the burden you feel as though you have with your powers, you've lost sight of that. Visions can't tell us everything about our lives, and they shouldn't. Part of living and existing is making decisions without knowing the consequences, but surrendering yourself to just go with the flow. It's trusting that things will end up okay, because they do. I don't want you to sacrifice anything about yourself for a supposedly brighter future, because to me, it wouldn't be one like that at all. My name is literally Darkstalker. My mom said she chose it so that I could chase away the shadows. Swiftwings chose Clearsight for you, but I think you lost the bigger picture with that. Clarity should come with peace, not anguish. Don't keep pushing yourself to be a savior for all, because you don't have to be. No dragon has to shoulder that kind of supposed destiny by yourself. It's why we have others in our lives to go through things with. Please don't lose yourself to the darkness, Clearsight. You're not the kind of dragon who should be chased away. I know you and I love you. Show the kingdom you're the dragonette who can do the hardest, but most necessary and inevitable thing imaginable. Surrender to fate. Don't let it control you or try to take hold of it. Let things happen. Because I promise you, we'll end up in the right reality if you do. Clearsight remained silent. She bit at her lip, now avoiding the strong gaze of Darkstalker. Is he right? Clearsight thought to herself. I don't know how I could even live like that, though. I thought he understood. Did he ever? Am I alone with these powers? Mother was right all those years ago. I'm the only one who can do this. Darkstalker has never seen the visions I have. His prophecy isn't nearly as strong. Maybe that's how things were always supposed to go. I was meant to tackle this alone. He says I'm not, but would he have to live in near eternity knowing he could have made things better? Or what if something awful happens tomorrow, and I wasted my time trying to surrender to the tide, and now I'm drowned beneath it, along with Darkstalker, Mother, and everybody else in my life? I could make Pyria fall into the wrong future. I'm sorry, Darkstalker. I can't give in. I have to keep using this power. In the end, it's the only thing that could bring me peace, whether he realizes it or not. But, will it? No. I'll use my prophecy right now and prove to myself that it will. I'll never turn into the dragon his father was, or any of the evil throughout the continent. I'll be the hero I was born to become, whether he supports me or not. Because I can't live knowing there might be a better world for all of us. I'm sorry. I have to do this. I hope you understand someday, Darkstalker. Maybe you never will. Maybe I never will. When Clearsight fought against the current of her oncoming visions beside her lover, she saw only realities of darkness, decay, and the same crumbling mountain. Her last sight, as far out as she could see, would be green scales and a familiar frown. Tears would stain the cheeks of the one she loved, because Darkstalker would be crying for her future. Wow, this story was a lot. I'm sorry to end things on such a heartbreaking note, but it's the truth. When we let an obsession with the brightest possible ending consume us, we don't actually get to live and enjoy life. Good things will come, and we can't always force them. We have to just surrender to the fact that every decision will have an outcome, even if it's a bad one that doesn't define our future days. In this story, Clearsight failed to understand that. Just like with Darkstalker in the books, Clearsight became her own antagonist and destructive end. And yes, I did include a little Fathom tease there. I left the ending quite ambiguous so that you can envision how exactly Clearsight's and Darkstalker's conversation would end. I mean, Fathom will eventually meet them, and Clearsight will be the one buried beneath the mountain. I'm quite proud of this story, and I hope you guys enjoyed it too. Once again, thank you so much to Kayumi for drawing the thumbnail and video art here. It's absolutely fabulous, and just helps bring this tale to life. What do you guys think? Which parts of this story did you really love? Let me know down below. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.